The Koei community has been fed an enormous serving of brand new Origins content over these past couple of days. And in this video, I'm going to share my overall impressions and highlight the moments that really stood out to me. There's a lot to cover here today, so this video will likely be incredibly scattershot. But as far as I'm concerned, with this new footage, I've seen enough to know whether I'd buy this game or not as a consumer. But first things first, I'll be going through the new overview trailer which was featured at this year's State of Play event, followed by some gameplay footage that was showcased at Tokyo Game Show 2024. And lastly, I'll share some closing thoughts, and what I'm both excited and concerned about. Because yes, despite being incredibly excited for Dynasty Warriors Origins, I am starting to get concerned about a couple of elements here and there. But enough waffling on, and without further ado, let's talk about the brand new trailer from State of Play. If there's 3 words I can use to best describe this trailer, it's characters, and holy shit, look at all these characters. It was a real treat to see some more footage of our favorite characters, such as Guan Yu, Dian Wei, Dio Chan, and even Dong Zhuo. Has this guy been working out? I think we got a certified look-smaxer over here. There's probably a couple dozen familiar faces were shown in this clip, with some looking fairly similar to their appearance in Dynasty Warriors 9, and others looking fresh and revamped. I remember one question popping up in my head from watching previous Origins footage, and that was, will this game have an aging system? And I feel like this trailer pretty much confirms the whole aging thing with Guan Yu's appearance here. Not only is he looking a little older and badass, but he's also found his mustache. My theory is that the aging system will be in place for any unique characters that stick around for a long time in the Three Kingdoms story, with other characters such as Lu Bu or Dong Zhuo only having the one age and appearance, seeing as they're killed off pretty quickly. But soon enough, we'll see exactly how this mechanic works in just under 4 months' time, as this trailer also happened to confirm the game's release date of January 17th, 2025. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm gonna call in sick that week. There's more footage in this trailer showcasing the vast spectacle of the densely populated battlefields, which looks amazing, of course, and I'll be touching more on that when we cover the TGS footage next. We're given a brief glimpse into the story of our nameless hero, with the guy suffering from what looks like some painful flashbacks to a pivotal moment in his past. I'm assuming we've got a bit of an amnesia situation on our hands here. And while I'm not usually a fan of the whole amnesia trope, I'm sure it'll work just fine with our hero in this instance, especially if we're given the option to join up with different factions like I'm hoping. Okay, just a few rapid-fire points I wanted to quickly touch on before we move on to the TGS gameplay. I'm pleasantly impressed with the English voice acting in this trailer, and at one stage we hear a few lines from a voice that sounds oddly familiar.
You claim to strive for justice, but have no way to achieve it. Tearing down the system without providing an alternative is mere wanton destruction.
I swear this sounds just like Liu Bei from earlier Dynasty Warriors games, but I could be wrong though. We're shown quite a decent variety of environments to traverse, such as wading through shallow waters, or even leaping off of enemy soldiers' heads. There's also some very pretty elements at work in this trailer too, like the gorgeous lighting effects, torrential rain, and terrifying tornadoes on the horizon. But despite the beautiful visuals, I feel like when it comes to the art direction of this game, in some aspects the graphics have either taken a step back or stagnated from what we've seen on the previous generation of consoles. Almost like the actual characters themselves are looking a bit last gen at this point, while the battlefields are littered with an insane number of peons, which makes Origins feel like it's truly pushing the Warriors franchise into the next generation of gaming. Obviously, these are just my observations from what we've been shown so far, and I'm sure it'll look and feel a lot different when playing the game for myself. Alrighty, next up, let's dive straight into the gameplay presentation from Tokyo Game Show. There's technically 2 clips from what I've seen so far, one that features the Battle of Guandu, and the other featuring the Battle of Sishui Gate. But if there's any other clips online that I've missed, please let me know in the comments. For the sake of this video, I'll be focusing more on the Guandu footage, just because it included English subtitles highlighting valuable gameplay info and details. But one thing I will say about the Sishui Gate footage is that I thought it was super classy of Koei to finish the demo with Lu Bu defeating the nameless hero. He looked super tough here, and it got me really excited to pursue him in Origins. That, and Sun Shangshang looks like perfection in this game. Koei was absolutely cooking with her character design, and her attacks looked so badass. Anyway, let's rapid-fire our way through this Guandu presentation, because there's a metric shit-ton to cover. Immediately, the map overview still looks amazing. It's such a creative and unique idea having our hero travel across Three Kingdoms China this way, and I can't wait to explore this world for myself. Pre-battle dialogue cutscenes are here in Origins too, and boy, these also look really great. I instantly thought of the Samurai Warriors 4 pre-battle scenes, but this appears to be leagues ahead with much more natural character animations while talking. War councils are also included in the game and occur before the battle starts. This feature goes through the upcoming battle conditions and objectives, which feels a lot like an alternative take on the tactical bonus system from Samurai Warriors 3. We've also finally gained some clarity on character swapping and what the situation is with playing as other famous officers in the story mode. The character swapping feature in Dynasty Warriors Origins is called the Companions system. Depending on the battle, you can either choose to go into the battle solo or select a companion to join you on the battlefield, which I'm assuming will always be a famous, unique officer. The neat thing about the companion system is that rather than picking a character to bring in just because you like them, you'll also need to consider which companion will be more advantageous to select, as each of them will have their own starting positions on the battlefield. Once you're in the thick of battle, your companion will also have a change character gauge, which allows you to completely change over to your companion for a certain amount of time. And this is the part where I'm kinda torn on how I feel about this system. On one hand, I think that having limitations on how often we can play as a companion is a clever way to force the player to remain focused on leveling and progressing as the nameless hero in the game's story mode. I mean, let's face it, if we had the option to swap in between characters during the whole battle, just like you can in Samurai Warriors 4 and 5, I think a lot of people would just be choosing to play as the characters we're all familiar with, which neglects this new protagonist. On the other hand, though, is this change companion feature only unique to the game's story mode, or will there be other game modes too? If there is in fact an alternative mode, or even just a free mode where we are presented with the option to revisit battlefields with whomever we please, I would absolutely hate it if we were forced to always have the nameless hero slotted into the primary character role, every time. As you can probably tell, I'm a little concerned with what's going on with the other characters in the game, but I'll touch a little more on this in my closing thoughts. On the battlefield, the morale system makes a return, and is rebranded as Courage. Although I'm not sure there's really any difference in how the Courage system works compared to earlier Dynasty Warriors counterparts, this system seems to significantly impact the enemy difficulty depending on which way the Courage meter is leaning. Enemy officers seem pretty damn tough, especially if your Courage is too low, and they also appear to be a little larger than the ocean of peons on the battlefield, helping them stand out more from the crowd. Visually, they're kind of presented as being more like mini-bosses in a way, rather than your standard run-of-the-mill officer encounters, but it's hard to tell for sure until we play this game for ourselves. Also, the peon uniform colors seem to be a little more muted in Origins, which helps the enemy officers stand out a little more too. As far as the actual combat mechanics go, it seems like there's a fairly big timing mechanic with the enemies emitting an orange glowing aura, which indicates that they're about to unleash a devastating attack. Originally, I thought this was something similar to the older games where enemy officers would telegraph when they were about to launch a Muso attack. But if anything, this feels a lot more like the combat system we saw in Dynasty Warriors 9, which is interesting. There appears to be more in-depth strategic mechanics in this game, such as approaching an allied officer when a glowing circle appears. This indicates when you can do a specific action like carrying out a surprise attack or initiating a charge against the enemy front lines. There's a few occasions where the nameless hero would issue orders or tactics, which feels like a more real-time and sophisticated version of something we'd expect from an Empires game, which I think, given the nature of how gigantic these battlefields are, it makes sense to see them included here. There definitely appears to be more of an emphasis on making strategic decisions with regards to controlling the battlefield and progressing towards the next base as an army. While I'm not so sure on how much I'll enjoy the heavier emphasis on strategy, I do feel like this approach has the potential of being a more modern way to slow the general pace of the battle down a bit, mechanically speaking. So in a way, it's a double positive. On one hand, the character movement speed, or mounted speed that we're accustomed to, from games like Dynasty Warriors 8 or Samurai Warriors 4, won't be compromised. While also, on the other hand, the overall pace of the battle will be slower and more thought out, requiring the player to capture bases, weaken enemy courage, and advance forward with your army. Speaking of bases, I love that the whole base system is making a return in this game. It appears to be a little different to Dynasty Warriors 5's base system, and follows more of an Empire's route where you need to defeat the enemy officers or all enemies in the base in order to conquer it. Either way, I'm super excited to see this system in action for myself. The siege mechanics and charging with your army against the enemy forces is an absolute spectacle to behold, and being in the thick of literally hundreds of on-screen soldiers charging at each other is probably one of the features I'm most excited for. Also, a revamped duel system is making a return in Dynasty Warriors Origins, which I absolutely love. It looks like the perfect blend between both of Dynasty Warriors 4's and 6's versions of the duel system, with the crowd of peons forming a circle around you and your enemy, while also having more of a formal setup with the dual bar and timer at the top of the screen. At one stage in the Battle of Guandu, it appears we cross paths against Genji. It did get me a little curious on if we'd be seeing any generic female officers, just to add a little more variety amongst our enemy NPCs. But I guess we'll see soon enough upon release. And when it comes to the game's Muso abilities, we're shown an extreme Muso attack, which you can activate with your companion who will come in with their own unique attack animation. And then, there are also true and ultimate Muso attacks. The producer mentions that once you've activated your true Muso state, you can then activate a finishing move which is called the ultimate Muso attack. This originally had me thinking that your true Muso state is more like your rage meter, and your ultimate Muso is basically your Muso attack in that state. But then, later in the demo, he also mentioned that your character has a Muso rage state as well, so I don't know. I think I might have missed something here or misunderstood the producer. Either way, I'm sure we'll get even more information on this ahead of January. The last thing I'll touch on from this demo is that you can seemingly change your weapon at any point in the battle, which is reminiscent of Dynasty Warriors 7. While I do like this feature in theory, as it keeps the gameplay from ever feeling stale if you're wanting to mix things up a bit, it does lead me ever so neatly to my closing thoughts and concerns section of the video. Let's address a couple of the thoughts that I'm starting to have with Dynasty Warriors Origins. With the changing weapon feature appearing in this game, at first I felt like it made total sense, as it gives us the opportunity to play our nameless hero however we please. But then it got me thinking, what's happening in Dynasty Warriors Origins regarding cloned movesets? Will our nameless hero have unique charge attacks or EX attacks with every weapon? Or will it be similar to Dynasty Warriors 8, where every character has their own preferred weapon with EX attacks, while technically being able to equip anyone else's weapon? On top of this, will every companion character have their own unique moveset too? Or will this be similar to Dynasty Warriors 7, where characters that shared a weapon also happen to share the same moveset, excluding their EX attacks? In Dynasty Warriors 7, not every character in the game was playable in a story mode, which kind of helped the game obscure the fact that there were cloned character movesets, at least until you went into Conquest mode and played as every other character. Even if the Jin Kingdom wasn't included in Origins, I'd imagine that there'd be at least 50 to 60 characters in the game's roster. So, will this mean that every character's weapon is unique? Or will this be a situation of shared weapons, but the actual character's movesets are unique? Or, in the worst-case scenario, could this be a situation of cloned movesets, with it being excused by the fact that the unique playable officers are being relegated into companion character slots? I guess we'll see soon enough. Let's move along to the actual famous heroes themselves, or companion characters. Will we be getting any free mode or alternative game modes in Origins, where we can select a famous officer as our primary character, and play as warriors like Sun Jian or Liu Bei across any battle in the game? I can't imagine that Koei would have gone to the trouble of giving everyone unique movesets and revamped character designs if they were solely relegated to a supportive role in the main story. So surely there would be a free mode in Origins at least, right? These characters are the backbone of this franchise, and it would be an incredibly monumental flaw and shortcoming if players aren't provided with a meaningful way to play as them, outside of just being companion characters. Anyway, this last concern is probably more of just a cautionary reaction, or a reservation with the gameplay we've been shown. After watching both gameplay presentations, I actually went back to look at gameplay trailers of Dynasty Warriors 9. I'm not gonna lie guys, the gameplay in this trailer actually looks pretty damn good. But there's a fairly stark difference between how the gameplay looks in this trailer, when compared to how it actually feels to play, which is shit. When I look at the Dynasty Warriors Origins combat, for the most part it looks great, but at other times the animations look a little weightless or janky. And with the inclusion of the R1 button wheel, which I'm assuming is the various abilities our character can use, this got me wondering, will the combat be more like Dynasty Warriors 9, where the combat leaned more into using R1 abilities and light QuickTime events? Or will this combat be more like Samurai Warriors 5, where the character movesets felt like the traditional Muso gameplay we all know and love, with the R1 abilities being more of just a nice added bonus feature? Either way, for me this all looks incredibly visually stunning. And if there's praise that I can give Origins from what I've seen so far, it's that this game looks significantly more polished and smooth when compared to 9. On top of that, what Koei has pulled off here just feels so immersive, and quite frankly is something I would have dreamed to see from a Muso game when I was a young kid. I actually like that Koei is doing something different with the storytelling with having the nameless hero, rather than relying on a new or different gimmick like the open world from Dynasty Warriors 9. Like they're actually trying something new with the storytelling, which gives me confidence this time around. I've made plenty of comments on this channel regarding Koei's attempts at chasing trends or trying to implement new features in their games with varying degrees of success. But honestly, I think Koei is at their best when they're doubling down on what makes their games unique. With the older titles, the hack-and-slash gameplay on an expansive battlefield actually felt innovative and unique to the Dynasty Warriors games. And from what we're seeing in these trailers, it feels like Koei is focusing on their strengths, like battlefield design, over-the-top combat, atmosphere, and maximizing the potential of on-screen character numbers. So, with all of these feelings of cautious optimism and excitement, I took off my YouTuber hat and had a proper think about my feelings towards this game, just as a fan and a general consumer. With games like Dynasty Warriors 9 and Warriors Orochi 4, I intentionally waited until those games were well and truly released and on sale, because I really felt the fatigue and laziness properly setting in with these games. I even thought that at this point, it would be impossible for Koei to bounce back and change my mind on a newer Dynasty Warriors title, especially after the last 6 or 7 years worth of releases. But here I am, after watching their latest trailer and gameplay demos. And I gotta say, I've seen enough to know that I would definitely buy this bad boy on day one release. Although I still have questions around the cloned movesets and full playability of the unique characters, I feel like Koei has put in a significant amount of effort to emphasize a new method of storytelling while bringing back older features like duels, all while neatly packaging this into a truly visual next-gen Dynasty Warriors experience. At this rate, I'll be getting Origins out of pure curiosity to see how this actually shapes up, and will be cautiously diving into this game while hoping for the best, while expecting to be asked to buy weapon DLC, and a lot of it. As I mentioned up top, this has been more of a general thoughts and impressions video on the trailer and gameplay footage from State of Play and TGS, so if there's anything at all that I missed, please let me know in the comments. Before wrapping up this video, I'd just like to give a massive thank you to the growing forces of Craig's Army for supporting this channel of mine. If you're interested in gaining access to exclusive members-only videos, or to join our members-only Discord, or perhaps you'd just like to support what I'm doing here with this channel, I'll leave a special link below in the description.